Hi, this is Ramya Ravindran and welcome back to my channel Infinity for UPSC. So we are moving on to History NCERT Class 6 Chapter 1 What, Where, How and When. What can be found out about the past? So in the present day, what are the things that we can find out about our ancestors who had been on this planet long before us? What people ate, the kind of clothes they wore, the houses in which they lived in, lives of hunters, herders, farmers, rulers, merchants, priests, craftspersons, artists, musicians, and scientists. Now, few terms are introduced to you all which you might be aware of, but I would like to precisely explain the meaning and the differences between them. The term hunters mean that those people who kill animals and survive on the flesh of those animals. And herders, what does this mean? They do not kill animals, but they rear animals. That is, they rear animals for their livelihood, and their livelihood is based on the byproducts of those animals, like milk, wool, all these things. Farmers, they neither kill nor they rear animals. Instead, they produce their own food. So I hope the difference between these three are clear. The difference lies in how do they get their food. Craftspersons, these people prepare articles using their hands. So anybody who prepares artifacts manually, they are called as craftspersons. What else can we find out? The games children played, the stories they heard, the plays they saw, the songs they sang. Now, if this is given as your MCQ option, that is, if the option says that in the present day we can find out the games which were played by the children who lived during the earlier historic period. So, if you read this, most students would mark it as the wrong option. But it is not wrong, it is correct. So, we can even find out the games, the stories they heard, the plays they saw, the songs they sang, all these things can be found out even today. Now, river Narmada is introduced to you. Why is it introduced? People have lived on the banks of this river for several 100,000 years. Now, in the present day, Indus and Ganga are very important to us. Those are significant because of the utility, because of their perennial nature, and because of the cultural significance. But during those days, that is, during the ancient period, Narmada was the most important river. Now, one more term is introduced to you, that is the gatherers. So, what has been said about gatherers? They knew about the vast wealth of plants in the surrounding forest, and these people survived on the roots, fruits, and other forest produce. That is, they collected things which were already available on the trees. So that means this category of people, that is the gatherers, they neither produced their food like farmers, nor did they kill like hunters, and they didn't even rear animals like herders. So that means gathering is the fourth way of getting food. Now, this slide becomes very important for your mains as well as for your interviews. The potential question that you can get in your mains as well as in your interviews could be this one. That is, why did ancient people choose to live around the water bodies? And if it is asked to you, then everybody or at least 99% of the students would give the same answer. That is, water is essential for the survival. So that is the reason they chose to live near a water body. But there is this one unique point which is given in your 6th standard NCERT textbook. That is about gatherers. So if you don't mention this point, it is going to be very silly of you. So you should mention that the gatherers were aware of the wealth of the plants that grew around the water bodies, and that is the reason gatherers prefer to live around the water bodies. Next, now your 6th standard NCERT textbook is asking you to locate river Narmada in the map. So let's see, where is it? Narmada is here. So this is river Narmada, and it is located between Vindhyas and Satpura. See, whenever an activity is mentioned in your book, you should always do some extra homework. That is, if you're supposed to note river Narmada, then you should also note the adjacent features and also some basic details about river Narmada. So what are some basic facts about river Narmada? It rises from Amarkantak Plateau in Madhya Pradesh. So another fact, Amarkantak Plateau is in Madhya Pradesh. It runs from east to west. That is, this is the path east to west, and it drains in Arabian Sea. Now, why is this point important? That is, it runs from east to west. That is because in the peninsular India. Now, what is a peninsula? The portion of India which is surrounded by water body from its three sides. That is, this region, this section is called as a peninsula. Now, if it is surrounded by water body from all the four sides, it is called as an island. So, three sides, peninsula, four sides, island. Now back to the significance of the point. This point is important because in peninsular India there are only two important rivers, two major rivers which flows from east to west, that is Narmada and Tapi. Rest all the rivers they flow from west to east, be it Mahanadi, Godavari, Krishna, Pennar, Kaveri. All rivers in the peninsular India except these two, they flow from west to east. See here I am talking only about the major rivers and the important rivers. I am not dealing with the small or the minor rivers. There are minor rivers which moves from east to west. There are several such rivers in the peninsular India, but here we are dealing only with the major rivers. Next, it flows through Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Gujarat. So what is important? Narmada is between Vindhyas and Satpura. It rises from the Amarkantak plateau in the Madhya Pradesh. It runs from east to west. It flows through Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and Gujarat. Remember all these points, these are very important. Now NCERT has introduced 4 mountain ranges to you. Sulaiman, Kirtar, Vindhyas, we have already seen this, and Garo Hills. Now why is this given to you? In Sulaiman and Kirtar ranges, crops such as wheat and barley were grown for the first time about 8,000 years ago. People also began rearing animals like sheep, goat, cattle and lived in villages. Where is Sulaiman and Kirtar ranges? You always supposed to note the present location. It is very important. Sulaiman and Kirtar range, these are present in the present day Pakistan. So it is in Pakistan. Now what all things are important? Sulaiman and Kirtar ranges, Pakistan, crops, wheat and barley 8,000 years ago, and they had started a settled life. If it is saying that they lived in villages, that means they had started a settled life. Now what is the significance of Vindhyas? The places where rice was first grown are to the north of Vindhyas. That is, rice was first grown in this region, that is the north of Vindhyas. So Sulaiman and Kirtar, wheat and barley, and to the north of Vindhyas, rice. Indus era 8,000 years old. IVC is older than the Egyptian and the Mesopotamian civilizations. See, in the previous slide, I told you that in Sulaiman and Kirtar ranges, they had started living in villages about 8,000 years ago. So don't think that people in Sulaiman and Kirtar ranges started a settled life much before the IVC. Because here, this news article says that it is actually 8,000 years old. So here we might actually be talking about IVC. So these people might also be belonging to the IVC section. See, we believe that IVC existed since 2500 BC. So if we go by 2500 BC, then IVC will look like a very recent civilization. But this particular news article, it confirms that ours is the oldest civilization in the world. Now what else is important for your prelims and mains from this article? 3 techniques are given in this article. Optically stimulated luminescence. This technique is used to date pottery. Carbon-14 analysis. This is used to decipher the antiquity and the climatic conditions in which the civilization flourished. So if UPSC asks you about the carbon-14 analysis and gives climatic conditions as one of the options, do not mark it wrong, because climatic conditions can actually be found out by using the carbon-14 analysis technique. Oxygen isotope composition. This can be used to understand the climatic pattern. How? The oxygen isotope in mammal bones and teeth, they preserve the signature of ancient meteoric water and in turn the intensity of monsoon rainfall. That is, through bones and teeth you can determine the presence of meteoric water and in turn you get to understand the rainfall pattern and in turn you get to understand the climatic pattern. So this is possible through oxygen isotope composition. So this kind of information, this is useful for your prelims as well as for your mains. Because if you write these details like the presence of meteoric water is determined and which in turn determines the climatic pattern, if you write these things, the examiner will understand that you have much more clarity about the topics. Or even if you can't remember all these technical details, at least make sure that you get the overview of such news articles. So if the question is which of the following techniques are used in archaeology, and if you get this option, that is optically stimulated luminescence, and if you have not read this article at all, you might mark this as a wrong option. So make sure that you do not miss any such news articles so that you can easily score 2 marks. Next, Indus and Ganga and the tributary of Ganga, that is Son. Here you have been asked to locate Son. So where is Son? This is Son. So this is the tributary of Ganga. Now what is NCERT saying? 4,700 years ago, some of the earliest cities flourished on the banks of Indus and its tributaries. Later, about 2,500 years ago, cities developed on the banks of Ganga and its tributaries and along the sea coast. Now, by far, what do we know about the settlement? By far, we know that settlement started around Narmada. Now, what is special about Indus? It is actually talking about the cities. So here they are mentioning about the cities, and cities developed near Indus about 4,700 years ago. Then later, that is 2,500 years ago, cities developed on the banks of Ganga and its tributaries and along the sea coast. Next, in ancient times, the area along the south of Ganga was known as Magad, and this Magad is in Bihar now. Its rulers were very powerful and set up a large kingdom. So what all facts are important here? There was a large kingdom called as Magad, and the location is south of Ganga in the present day Bihar. Very important for your MCQ. See, in the case of history, if you directly read the 12th standard book or some other book, you will overlook these kind of facts because too much information is given there all of a sudden. But if you prepare from the 6th standard NCERT onwards, you will be slowly collecting these facts, and by the time you reach class 12th, you will be having a plethora of facts in your mind. That is, you will be ready for your UPSC exam. So start from 6th standard NCERT onwards. So what all things are important here? 4,700 years ago, cities on the banks of Indus. 2,500 years ago, cities on the banks of Ganga and along the sea coast. Then Magad, this is in present day Bihar, location is south of Ganga. So as I told you, if you're asked to locate a river, you're also supposed to collect some basic facts. So let's read about Indus and Ganga. Indus rises in Tibet near Lake Mansarovar. So that means the origin is not in India, it is in Tibet and near Lake Mansarovar. Flowing west, it enters India in Ladakh. So this is important, it enters India in Ladakh. It has got several tributaries like Zaskar, Nubra, Shok and Hunsa. So remember all these tributaries, Zaskar, Nubra, Shok and Hunsa, these are tributaries of river Indus. Remember the names, Zaskar, Nubra, Shok, Hunsa. Only 1/3 of Indus basin is located in India and it flows through Jammu Kashmir, Ladakh, Himachal Pradesh and Punjab. And the rest portion, that is the 2/3 portion, is flowing through Pakistan. So this is also important, just 1/3 is in India and 2/3 is in Pakistan. Now let us know the location of Indus, that is it flows from here, enters India and it moves out to Pakistan. And what are the major tributaries? Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas, Satluj. So remember these names, Jhelum, Chenab, Ravi, Beas and Satluj. The origin is not in India, it is in Tibet. Now let's have a look at Ganga as well. The origin of Ganga is in India itself. It has got two headwaters and they join and become Ganga. It has got several tributaries like Ghagra, Gandak, Koshi, Son, Chambal, Betwa and Yamuna. See, Chambal and Betwa, these are tributaries of Yamuna and indirectly tributaries of Ganga. Now, whenever we study a river, there are two terms which comes into existence. One is left bank tributary and other one is right bank tributary. So, how to determine whether a particular tributary is a left bank tributary or a right bank tributary? For that, you should know the flowing pattern of the river. That is, how is the river flowing? Now, river Ganga, it is moving from here and it is flowing in this direction. So, suppose you imagine river Ganga to be a person and you imagine a person walking like this. So, that means this person's right hand side is this area and the person's left hand side is this area. So, all the rivers which join river Ganga from this region, they become the right bank tributary, and the rivers joining Ganga from this region, they become the left bank tributary. So, how is a tributary determined? On the basis of the flowing direction. Now let's read about Ganga. The headwaters of Ganga, called Bhagirathi, is fed by the Gangotri glacier and it is joined by Alaknanda at Devprayag in Uttarakhand. I've told you Ganga has got its headwaters, that is, the source is different river. So it is Bhagirathi, and Bhagirathi joins Alaknanda and then it becomes Ganga. And what is the meeting point? It is Devprayag in Uttarakhand. So this is very important. Bhagirathi plus Alaknanda becomes Ganga, and where? Devprayag in Uttarakhand. Now there is another important site related to Ganga, and that is Haridwar. At Haridwar, the Ganga emerges from the mountains onto the plains. So that is the reason Haridwar is very important culturally as well as in the religious sense. Why? Because it is this region where Ganga is accessible to the people. Before this, Ganga is flowing through the mountains, and at Haridwar it enters the plains. So that means it becomes accessible for the people to visit this region. So Haridwar is an important site. Next, the main tributaries which comes from the peninsular uplands are Chambal, Betwa and Son. These rise from semi-arid areas, have shorter courses and do not carry much water in them. We'll see why is that way. See, Ganga and most of the tributaries, they have their source in some or the other glacier. Now what is the speciality of the glacier? If the source is in glacier, the river gets water throughout the year. Because they do not have to depend on the monsoon, they get their water through the glacier. These glaciers melt during summer and which provides water to these rivers. But that is not the case with Chambal, Betwa and Son. They do not have a glacier providing their water throughout the year. They are dependent on monsoon for their water, and that is the reason the level of water decreases when there is no monsoon and the water is not perennial. But these rivers, that is Ganga and these tributaries, they are perennial. That is, the water is available throughout the year, and here that is not the case. So that is the reason it is mentioned that they have got shorter courses and do not carry much water in them. Next, purpose of traveling. Now during the modern time, people travel a lot, but that is because traveling is easier and it is easily accessible. But there was a time when traveling was very difficult and very time consuming. But still people chose to travel. Why? These are the reasons. First is livelihood. Now we have already seen a category of people called as gatherers. That is, they collect fruits from the trees and that is what they consume. Now these fruits, they are seasonal. So if they do not get fruits in that particular area in a particular season, they will have to move out to some other location and stay there for some time. So that means they used to travel for livelihood. So that is not the case only with the gatherers. But if you look at hunters and herders, even they had to move because of their livelihood. That is, if a particular region is being hunted for a long time, the animals who are surviving there will be over and the hunters will have to move out to some other place in search of animals. And even if you take the case of herders, they will also have to travel. Why? So herders, they rear animals. So if they are rearing sheep and all, the sheep will have to relocate if the grass in that area gets over. So if the sheep has to relocate, the herders will also have to relocate. So that is how livelihood played an important role in case of traveling. Second, to escape from natural disasters like floods or droughts. Next, to conquer others' lands, we know this. Merchants to sell their goods, religious teachers to preach their religion, and just for the sake of adventure. So these are the reasons why an ancient Indian traveled. So livelihood, natural disasters, to conquer land, to sell good, to preach, and just adventure. Now what is the result of traveling? Because of traveling, there was sharing of ideas, new ways of carving stone, composing music, and even cooking food. Next, names of the land. The word India comes from Indus, called Sindhu in Sanskrit. So that means Sindhu is the original name and Indus is the corrupted version of Sindhu. That is because Iranians and Greeks, they could not pronounce Sindhu correctly and they pronounced it incorrectly and they called it Indus. So that is how this word came into existence. That is, this is the corrupted version of the actual word called Sindhu. So what is given about Iranians and Greeks? Iranians and Greeks who came through the northwest about 2500 years ago, they were familiar with Indus. They called it Hindos or Indos, and the land to the east of river Indus was called India. So that means the land which is lying towards the east of this river, that entire piece of land was called as India. So this name was given by Iranians and Greeks. Now, one important point that you're supposed to note here is with respect to the entry point. That is, the Iranians and the Greeks, they entered India via the land route and not via the sea route. They came through northwest. So this is an important point for your MCQ. Please remember this. Now, if you look at this figure, 2500, what all things should come to your mind? We had seen this figure somewhere else too. 2500 years ago, first cities developed around Ganga. So this is how you should study. That is, whenever you see a date or a word, every other fact which is related to that particular date should come to your mind. That is how you will be able to recollect all these facts which are necessary for your UPSC. So start this technique. That is, whenever you see a figure, you should try to recollect every other fact which is related to that figure. Okay, so please follow this technique. Then the another word, that is Bharat. This was used for a group of people who lived in the northwest and who are mentioned in the Rig Veda. So Rig Veda, this is the earliest composition in Sanskrit. It is dated to about 3500 years ago. See, there are arguments related to this date among the historians themselves. So the experts believe that Rig Veda is much older. This is a very recent figure, but Rig Veda is much older than what is given here. Next, manuscripts. Manuscripts are called so because they were written by hand. This comes from the Latin word manu, which means hand. We are already aware of Manu. The reference is there in Indian mythology. So Manu was a person who had written down the rules and regulations which a society is supposed to follow. So that is the same meaning given to manuscript. That is, anything which is written down by hand is called as a manuscript. Now these manuscripts, they are usually written on palm leaf or on specially prepared bark of a tree known as birch. And this birch grows in Himalayas. So this is very important. That is, birch is found in Himalayas. These kind of questions are very frequently asked in your MCQs. That is, a particular region is given and you are supposed to identify the flora and fauna which grows in that particular region. So birch is found in Himalayas. So this is how we will be collecting facts from the 6th standard book onwards. Now these manuscripts, they dealt with all kind of subjects like religious books and practices, the lives of kings, medicines and science. We know all these things, that is Ayurveda, astrology, astronomy, all kind of science were mentioned in the manuscripts. But the lighter versions like the epics, the poems and the plays, even these were written down in manuscripts. So this is important. Even plays were written down as manuscripts. What is the language? Sanskrit, Prakrit and Tamil. So these are important: Sanskrit, Prakrit and Tamil. Next, inscriptions. Now what is the difference between manuscript and inscription? Manuscript is written down on a softer surface like a palm leaf or a birch leaf. But inscriptions, these are written on relatively hard surface such as stone or metal. Kings got their orders inscribed so that people could see, read and obey them. So kings' orders were inscribed. There are other kinds of inscriptions as well where men and women, including kings and queens, recorded what they did. So this means that it was not just kings and queens, but the ordinary people had also been recording the events and their day-to-day activities as inscriptions. So this is an important fact. Even ordinary people used to inscribe things. Then kings often recorded their victories in battle as inscriptions. So that means kings inscribed the orders which were supposed to be followed and the records of victories. Now an example of an inscription is given here. That is a 2250-year-old inscription which was found in Kandahar, and this Kandahar is in present day Afghanistan. It was inscribed on the orders of King Ashoka. It was inscribed in two different scripts and languages, Greek and Aramaic. So lot of facts and all are important. 2250-year-old inscription, Kandahar, Afghanistan, King Ashoka, Greek and Aramaic. Now when you see this figure 2250, what all should come to your mind? One is 2500 years ago Ganga got its first cities, and 2500 years ago Iranians and Greeks entered India through northwest. So that is 2500, but this is 2250. So all these events are nearby, that is the Kandahar inscription, cities in Ganga and entry of Iranians and Greeks. Next, decipherment. All inscriptions contain both scripts and language. Understanding the old script and language is known as decipherment. So that means a language has got two parts. One is the script part, another is the language part itself. So this decipherment involves decrypting both, that is the script part as well as the language part. Now if you look at English language, the script that we use is the Latin script, and if you look at the Hindi language, the script that we use is the Devanagari script. Next, archaeologists. They study the remains of buildings, paintings and sculpture. And these buildings, these are made out of stone and brick. Now why are they specifying this? That is made out of stone and brick, because the buildings which are made out of clay or the artifacts which are made out of clay, those will not last as those are perishable ones. But if the clay is treated with fire, that is if it is baked, that is if it is converted into brick, then that is going to last and that can be used for the purpose of archaeology. They also explore and excavate. What is excavation? Digging under the surface of the earth. This is called as excavation. So they excavate to find tools, weapons, pots, pans, ornaments and coins. Some of these objects, that is these objects, they are made out of stone, others of bone, baked clay or metal. So that means all these will survive. Objects that are made of hard, imperishable substances usually survive for a long time. Imperishable means they will last. Archaeologists also look for bones of animals, birds and fish to find out what people ate in the past. So that means if the bones of these are found near the settlement area, then we can conclude that the people ate these things. Else these won't be found near the settlement area. So that is how they concluded what these people ate. Now there is another way of determining what those people ate. It means if the people had this kind of teeth, that is molar teeth, then that suggests that they were vegetarians. But if the people have got this kind of teeth, that is canine kind of teeth, then that suggests that they were non-vegetarians. They ate animals, because this kind of teeth is necessary to eat the flesh. You will note that tigers and lions have got this kind of teeth and cows have got this kind of teeth. So based on the structure of teeth, we can determine whether the people were vegetarians or non-vegetarians. Now this is very important. Plant remains survive very rarely. We know this, plants are perishable ones, so they will not last. But if the seeds of grain or pieces of wood have been burnt, they survive in a charred form. So that means if these are burnt, these will survive in the charred form and an archaeologist can use it to determine the history. So that means plant remains, this will not survive, but burnt remains will survive. This is very important for your MCQ. Please remember this. Next, pot and silver coins are given here. So this pot existed about 4700 years ago. So what kind of pot is this? Colored pot, and there is some geometrical figures drawn on top of this pot. So this kind existed about 4700 years ago. Now the silver coins, there are some images drawn here. This looks like sun. So there are images on the silver coins, and this existed about 2500 years ago. So that means silver coins were in use about 2500 years ago. Now when you see this 4700 years ago, what else should come to your mind? Cities flourished on the banks of Indus 4700 years ago. And if you look at this thing, that is silver coins in use about 2500 years ago, what else should come to your mind? Cities developed on the banks of Ganga, its tributaries and along the sea coast 2500 years ago. This is one thing. Second thing, the entry of Iranians and Greeks through northwest. So this is how you should study. Next, one past or many. So the title of the book says our past. That is in the plural form. So that means there were different kind of past for different groups of people. Example, the lives of herders or farmers were different from those of the kings and queens. And the lives of merchants were different from those of craftspersons. So like the present day, we have got different strata of people living and all of them have got different kind of lives. So that is the reason the title of the book is in the plural form, our past. Besides, there is another kind of difference. That is, we know a great deal about the kings and the battles they fought because they kept records. But the ordinary people like hunters, fishing folk, gatherers, farmers, they did not keep records of what they did. Now look at the word that has been used here, generally. So that means they cannot confirm that these people did not keep record. So most of the time they did not keep record, but yes, some ordinary people, they have recorded things as manuscripts and as inscriptions. So that is the reason this word is used generally. So in short, what is the difference? We know a lot about this category of people and we know very little about this category of people. So that is where the role of archaeology comes in. It is because of archaeology that we know about these people. But what is it saying? That there is much more to be known about these category of people and the life in general of those times. So that means we are yet to find out about the lives of these category of people who belong to this era. Next is BC and AD. So this is the dating technique that we use as of now. BC is before Christ, AD is Anno Domini. This is a Latin word which means in the year of the Lord. That means in the year when Christ was born. So that particular year is marked as 0 and the counting begins from there. So 1234 AD and 1234 BC. Now BC is in reverse. That means 4 BC is older than 1 BC because it is in reverse. But that is not the case with AD. 1 AD is older than 4 AD. So note this difference. Now another common confusion that students have is with respect to century. Now century means you have to add 2 digits or 2 zeros after that particular number. So 14th century means 14 and 00. Now look at this figure, that is 1420 AD. So will you call this as 14th century or 15th century? Most of the students call this as 14th century. But this is not 14th century, this is 15th century. If it is 1400, you can call it as 14th century. But thereafter, that is if it becomes 1401, from there onwards you will call it as 15th century. So this is 15th century. Now AD and BC have got another names as well. That is AD is called as Common Era CE and BC is called as Before Common Era, that is BCE. In India, we began using this form of dating from about 200 years ago. That is, since the time Britishers came, since that time we are using this dating technique. But before that, we were using much more advanced technique because our astrology were precisely marking the positions of the planets. But this English calendar doesn't take into account all those factors, but we are just following this because this was introduced to us 200 years ago. Next, some facts. So at the end of your chapter, these 3 facts are highlighted. So we will read it once again. Beginning of agriculture, 8,000 years ago. We had already seen it. 8,000 years ago, wheat and barley were grown in Sulaiman and Kirta ranges. This is in Pakistan, and rearing of animals had started. Next, the first cities on Indus 4,700 years ago. We know this. City in Ganga 2,500 years ago, and a kingdom called as Magad. This existed towards the south of Ganga, which is in present day Bihar. So that's all for this chapter. Please like, share and subscribe this channel, and I'll be back with the next chapter very soon. Thank you so much.